Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today we're going to be having a look at what I would generally consider a forgotten about film from the 90s. I don't know if a lot of people even remember this movie, and that is Space Truckers, made in 1996 and starring Dennis Hopper, Stephen Dorff and Charles Dance, directed by Stuart Gordon, who's probably most famously most well known for directing sort of the body comedy horror that is Reanimator. I think make no mistake, this film was a box office bomb, right? Space Truckers was a fail. You know, it was a big swing and a miss. Didn't do all that well, and I don't even think it actually originally got a theatrical release in the States when it was like the movie come out. The film, in a way, though, is so harmless. It's the only way I can sort of describe this film. It's a harmless movie. It doesn't go out of its way to offend anybody. It's not neither this nor that. It's just basically a harmless movie, and it is what it is. Like one of them films, like you forget that you almost forget it was even made. This kind of movie. I know apparently Charles Dance had a blast making this movie, as you know, the opportunity to play like a straight villain is like, let's face it, in a very silly movie must have been quite appealing to him, just to give that, sort of type of go. And Charles Dance is always one of these people, like, he would just give anything a go in a film if it just means he could play it a bit differently or whatever. He was also like the villain in sort of Golden Child with Eddie Murphy as well. But a very silly movie. And yes, the film, it is daft, right? It is really silly. It's almost in a way, apart from a few scenes and some of the themes and tones, it could almost actually be a kids' movie. This could actually, because it's so simple and so sort of, I won't say by the numbers, but there's not an awful lot that happens in the movie. Everything's quite straightforward, and like I said, if you take a few of the sort of comments here and there and sort of a couple of things with the plot, it could in a way be like a kids movie. Could almost, but I think the film was largely, if not all of it, I think it was filmed in Ireland. I think, most of it was filmed in Ireland. There is another one of the movies where it's like something I feel like I'm the only one who actually remembers the movie. If you remember my Virtuosity review, I don't think a lot of people remember that movie that much. I think it's the same sort of with Space Truckers. There's people that have seen it, but largely it is forgotten about. Not a lot of people know what this is. But the film is very much of the time, and it just reeks at that mid-90s, much like Virtuosity did as well. Very much of the time. And is the film stupid? Yes. Is it super original? Not really. But it's one of them movies that I mentioned, there's that word harmless in its execution of what it's trying to achieve. That to say it's awful, I think, is being a bit too harsh on it. I don't think you can really necessarily say this is a bad movie, because like I mentioned, it's that word harmless again, where it doesn't really do anything to sort of upset anybody. It's just one of them. It's just one of them films. I think in certain aspects you can really see what Gordon was going for here, like a light-hearted action space romp with the idea of like colonies in space, but things like corporate greed and bosses still exist. The character of John Canyon is sort of a devil-may-care, just a trucker trying to do his work and his job. Oddly enough, though, I always liken the film more to sort of Spaceballs than anything else. I think it reminds me a lot of Spaceballs, with that sort of Bill Pullman's Lone Star sort of character going on. Charles Dance in this film, as I mentioned, is obviously having a great blast as our sort of cyborg villain, and it's one of these movies that out of somewhere I'm sure out there it has a strong cult following. I'm pretty sure this film, I'm sure it does have its fans. It's these kind of films like this, like Virtuosity, Fifth Element, so very big in the 90s. I know this film wasn't a huge thing, but they were very of that time is what I'm trying to say. That period where visual effects and CGI were getting more common, and while still not being perfect in a lot of movies, it didn't stop filmmakers from using them. You have to remember as well that Dennis Hopper was quite big in the 90s, being the villain in like sort of 3 big movies, starting with Super Mario Brothers, then Speed, and then of course Waterworld. So let's see how Space Truckers holds up and if it's worth checking out. But if you have seen this movie, let me know in the comments below. So the film starts with this training exercise where Dr. Nable's Charles Dance is showing off his new cyborg warrior killing machines, and after giving control to his boss, E.J. Saggs, he orders the robots to kill Nables and plans to use them to take over the Earth, basically. So simple setup. And when I say this could be a kids' movie, that premise alone, I've designed some evil robots. Now this evil guy's got his hands on the control and he wants to take over the Earth. Then we meet John Canyon as a sort of senior all-space trucker just trying to make his money and do his job on his way to sort of Mars City to like delivering hogs. We also have George Wendt here as like the company head. It also makes me remind, when I talk about what this film, sort of what I compare it or what I liken it to or what it reminds me of, it also reminds me of Cowboy Bebop as well. Just the way the ports and the colonies are, as well as the song Deep Purple Space Trucking is another thing I think of with this movie, which I can assume probably would have been a huge inspiration as well. So Canyon's late with the delivery, and Keller, Wendt's character, won't pay him his 6,000 credits as he is late. We have that 90s CGI blood going on here too in this movie, where depending on the budget and the director, all the effects could either look really good-ish or really crappy. Remember that time in the 90s, basically from sort of early 90s, sort of Jurassic Park era, sort of going forward, some films, depending on the budget, depending who was directing it, it all depended what kind of CGI you were going to get. Like, to me, my opinion, Jurassic Park still holds up even now. A lot of movies without the budget, not so great with the CGI, doesn't it? It looks pretty, like I say, pretty damn crappy. So Canyon goes into like this diner, which is quite cool visually, as it's like in like a massive circle where the restaurant sort of like loops on itself, which I thought was quite cool. Where he meets like Mike Pucci, a new trucker, Stephen Dorff's character. Canyon's sweet on Cindy, a waitress who is known for a long time and has a soft spot for, and she wants to get back to work for her mum who is having an operation. So the company takes his hogs who Keller wants to give to Pucci, and after a light-hearted brawl and George Wendt getting sucked through a window, Mike, John and Cindy go into like this toilet. They use a keypad that is in, and then it's like this old lady in a like this robot's mouth. They go into like this toilet and they use this keypad, which takes them down to Mr. Zesty, who gives them like a job to deliver these supposed sex dolls, with the consigners paying 5 times the going rate. And it always makes me laugh, like, because it's these three now, Mike, John, and Cindy off on this adventure, and it just so happens that John's got exactly 3 seats on his rig. He's got exactly 3 seats for them to, what are the chances? What are the odds of that? But he's got exactly 3 seats, in his truck. Not sure who this guy is and why he's hiding who they got a job from down in like below a toilet. I suppose it's sort of just for under the radar jobs that nobody else wants to do, or whatever it may be. So they get the cargo and the police come after them following Keller's death, though they are told to abandon the pursuit. Watch out when Canyon turns the wheel left and then right, and Mike going, that was some of the best driving I've ever seen. Like, seriously, that's a genuine comment. Like, he just turns the wheel left, then right, and Mike looks at him in complete awe, like, that was some of the best driving I've ever seen. Like, you're thinking, he just turned the wheel. They fly into what is known as the scum cluster. Their food they have in this is like some eggs and cappuccino in like a toothpaste tube. So some rocks hit the rig and damages the coolant system, which means they will burn up in a few hours. So Mike and Cindy strip down to their underwear and start snogging, whilst John is outside trying to fix the thing. So it's sort of unfair on John, as Cindy knows she is smitten on him, but the idea with Canyon is he's a lonely man and he just sort of has a soft spot for Cindy. But again, at this point, it's not really going anywhere. They've just hit a coolant system. John's gone out to repair it. Them two have just stripped down to their undies and they're just having a kiss. This is all that's really happening in the movie at this point. Doesn't really have an awful lot to say, but I think the whole idea was to give that a comedic action adventure type of movie. It just, unfortunately, it misses more boxes than it actually ticks off in terms of sort of what it gets right and what it gets on. So John can't unhook the cargo as it has like defense lasers. So all three just start drinking basically and preparing for the end in a very, very light-hearted way. They're sort of getting ready, like prepared to die, but they're doing it in a very sort of roundabout, light-hearted way. Like, oh well, what can we do? To which after this happens, then to which after this they get hijacked by pirates, not parrots, pirates. I do love the line from Mike, like when he's asking him how many guns you got, and John pulls one out and says, "I don't even know if this one works," like, which I thought was quite a funny line, just like the fact he's got no like weapons in his arsenal completely, and even what he does have, he's not even sure if it's going to work. So we meet Charles Dance, who is captain of the pirates, who has gone like full-blown leather trench coat, hats and shades, giving off like sort of a Nazi from Indiana Jones, or even sort of M. Bison sort of vibes here. And one of the first things he does is threaten to cut off their dicks. So Cindy agrees to have sex with him, and we see that he has rebuilt everything on his body after sort of being killed at the start of the movie, even his genitals, which he now uses like a ripcord to power up. Yes, that is has like a ripcord to power up his down belows. Yes, the film does have a guy trying to fire up his privates with a ripcord. After about to get down to it, Cindy pulls some of his tubes loose. Then she goes to pretend to be the captain, which no one in their right mind would believe, right? There's no way anybody would believe when Cindy's as the captain. Nobody there in their right mind would believe that was... She's like a foot shorter, if nothing else. Bearing in mind how tall Charles Dance is anyway. They're just like going along with it like you can't tell the difference. Oh, God. So they open up the cargo. The captain wants revenge on Sags. One of the robots gets loose and starts sort of like vaporizing the captain's men as they start shooting it. So during the ruckus, John, Mike and Cindy get back on the rig and fly it out of there. The ship blows up with some very, like I'm talking about CGI, bad or good, some very bad CGI. They find the captain split on half on the back of the rig, and who can forget such classic lines as, if I had an anus, I would have sawed myself. Like first time we meet Charles Dance, he's talking about cutting off their dicks. Like he's talking about dicks. And then the last line from Charles Dance, he's talking about his anus. Or if he had an anus. Just keeping the classy, this film isn't. This film is not, you will never ever describe this film as classy. So he tells John and Mike that the robots can't be stopped, gives them this device that stops the cyborgs in their tracks, and then he sort of dies, okay? So he says they can't be stopped, but with this device they can be stopped. So he sort of contradicts. He gives them like this. It's basically like a little remote, right? That he's just been carrying around with him this whole time. He says to them, no, they can't be stopped. It can't be undone. And he's like, oh, by the way, use this to stop them. Two of the cyborgs break into the rig, and John uses his new like clicker toy. They go to into the cargo hold and see a group of the robots coming alive, and two are on the outside of the ship. The whole idea being they attack in waves, and the waves get bigger every time. Like it's 2, then it's 4, then it's 8, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the ones on the outside come through the rig window. One gets frozen, like crushed by the door, and the other gets like a microwave smashed on his head. John's new clicker toy gets lost through the window. After this, John releases Cindy from her obligation to marry him. So this whole clicker toy that he's given him, he has it for a few minutes. Then it's obsolete. This thing's gone. Like I thought that might have been sort of the answer to sort of getting them out of this jam, but the clicker toy just goes. John says to Cindy, you don't have to marry me anymore, even though I don't think she really wanted to anyway. She's just sort of doing it because she sort of felt a bit sorry for him. So she says he tells her that she's out of it and gives him her and Mike his blessing. Stephen Dorff in this really doesn't have much to do. Stephen Dorff, he's fine in the movie, but he's really largely background. It's very much a Dennis Hopper movie, and even Charles Dance is not. You would think he was going to be like a main in the film a lot more than what he is, and like a real main antagonist, but he's not really sort of an antagonist, really. He's not. You couldn't really say he's the villain as such, because he's sort of he's against Sags, who's probably who is the evil mastermind behind this. But say to Stephen Dorff doesn't really have much to do, and to be fair, Cindy doesn't have much to do either. So as I say, could have just been Dennis Hopper really, and that would have been enough. So John wants them two to take the escape pod, as John plans to release the cargo so it sort of burn up on re-entry. Loads of cyborgs come out. Mike tortures them with the escape pod thrusters. Mike and Cindy land safely. They watch the rig blow up, thinking John is inside, but of course he survives and sort of parachutes down. John Canyon's always going to survive. He's made of stronger stuff than that. And after being in space for so long, would all of them take? I mean, I've know next to nothing about space travel or anything like that, but where they've been in space for so long, where they've come back down to Earth, would they take to Earth's gravity as quickly as that? Wouldn't it be a very change in sort of like gravitational and just everything with like the way, like where they've been sort of weightless for a long time in space and then they cut back down to Earth? Would it be just instant like that? So they go to see Cindy's mum, and turns out she was frozen and cured or something along them lines. So the president of the world comes in, who is actually Sags, president of the world, and gives them money, pays their hospital bills, and gives John a new rig. In exchange, they keep their silence about the killer cyborgs, right? And it's almost like with this film, they didn't know how to end it at all. It's like they had no idea how to end this film. Mike throws the money out of the window, and it turns out this money has a bomb in it, which inadvertently kills Sags on like the street below. And like I say, it's really like, it doesn't know how to end itself. Her mum is fine. Here is some money, but no, it's not. It's a bomb. I mean, why on earth would Sags buy them a new rig? Why would he buy John Canyon a new rig, get him a new rig and all these things, do the hospital bills, if he was just going to sort of blow them up anyway? Like, he could have saved his money, right? But he actually did buy him a rig. Why not say, I will get you a rig after, like, sort of... once he's done like the bomb and everything. But no, he actually does get him a rig and pay the bills and everything. So the film ends with Mike, John and Cindy and her mum blasting off in his new rig, and we have no idea where to. Did they tell anyone, like officials, about Sags and his plan? A lot of things just left open-ended. It's just you have no idea even where they're going at the end. It's just these four just taking off on like another crazy adventure just because... well, they've got nothing else to do. Like, Mike's got nothing else to do. Cindy's mum and her have got nothing else to do. Let's just go off for another joyride. So, yeah. I mean, some, if not most, of the dialogue in this movie is incredibly hammy. The script isn't exactly, I would say, top-notch in terms of... but I think that's what this film's lacking. It really could have done with a much wittier script. And it could... a lot of the time, there's not really much that happens in the movie. It's just about these killer cyborgs, and that's it. I could see what Gordon was going for, like with this movie, with the quirky, gimmicky space comedy that people would like. It just unfortunately misses more targets than it actually hits, which is a real shame. But I can imagine this film does have its fans. I can imagine it is a bit of a cult film in some circles. I mean, some of the jokes not laugh out loud funny, and like I mentioned, apart from a few scenes and bits of dialogues, it could have easily have been a kids' film. If they took out, the idea that the robots were sort of disguised as sex dolls, and take out a couple of the dick jokes, and you've got, like I say, a real harmless children's movie. But the film is harmless enough for a late night movie, drinking with your friends, having some beers, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, as well, it doesn't get the action and comedy balance right, and it's not quite sure what it wants to be. But I think Charles Dance is definitely having a blast here. Dennis Hopper pretty much carries the film all the way through, and I say Mike and Cindy, the characters of Mike and Cindy really don't have much to do in the movie at all. John's the one. It's his rig, it's his, adventure. He's the one calling all the shots, and them two are just tagging along. Like at the end of the movie when they go into space, they're just going with John just for something to do. But if you have seen Space Truckers, let me know what you think. If you like it, hate it, have you even heard of it? Have you seen it? Did you see it back in the day? And let me know what you think. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.